Hi, I'm Harry Donahue, and I'm here to talk about my good friend Jay Sigel. Jay was probably one of the top two amateurs, along with Bobby Jones, in American golf history. A little look at his resume shows multiple Philadelphia amateurs, U.S. amateurs, and he also won the Mid-Am more than once. He won the British Amateur. 9 times he was a member of the Walker Cup team, and 8 of those teams won the match, including 3 times as the playing captain. Oh, and how about this? He appeared in 11 Masters, and 3 times was the low amateur at Augusta. And off the course, Jay Sigel was quite a philanthropist. For more than 30 years, he ran an annual golf tournament that helped raise millions of dollars for cancer research at the University of Pennsylvania. I had a chance to sit down with Jay at his home in suburban Philadelphia to talk about his fantastic career, both on and off the golf course.
Do you remember the first time you held a golf club in your hands and took a swing at that white ball?
I do, Harry. I wasn't very good. In fact, I'd been caddying. I, of course, played all other sports, but caddying, it was just awful. I was carrying 3 bags at Bala Golf Club. Back then they were light, right shoulder, 3 bags, looking for balls. And my dad happened to say, he was one of in that group that day, and said, "Would you like to try this game?" I said, "Well, it's going to be better than doing this for the 3 of you guys." So that's how it started, and I got a lot of help from the pros at Bala, and of course the members too.
You got a lot of help because you went to Lower Merion High School, and from there you went to Wake Forest. And at the time, Wake Forest was a pretty well-known golf commodity.
Very good.
You made it to Wake Forest, had a great career there. But tell us about, first of all, your connection to Arnold Palmer. Arnold Palmer, of course, went to Wake Forest, had a lot to do with the Wake Forest golf program. You remember the first time you got introduced to Arnold?
I do. As a matter of fact, my dad was fraternity brother, his brother-in-law, no, Arnold's father-in-law, I got it, and Shub Walzer, Winnie's dad, and called Arnold when I was 16 and said, "I think my son's about ready for a first-class golf lesson, and who would you suggest?" He said, "My dad." We went out, got a lesson, which was fabulous. But the funny thing that day, as I was telling you, Arnold was over here, and here I am warming up to get ready, nervous as a jaybird, and I shanked like the first 3 or 4 shots, almost took Arnold's head off. So he and I have laughed about that a few times.
I guess so. You had an injury at Wake Forest. Tell us about that, and that really changed your whole career, both professionally and also with the game of golf.
It sure did. I stuck my hand through a window pane and the door got slammed on me and cut the nerves and tendons, and I was in the hospital 10 days and didn't really play for like 11 months. Everyone said it's a blessing. You'll realize it later on. It was a blessing. The best thing ever happened to me.
And it changed, like I say, your life, your personal life too. You said
Absolutely.
You wouldn't have met your wife probably.
I was there 5.5 years, so it gave me a chance to meet my mate, now my wife of 51 years, and I was able to finish what I started, and that was just incredible to be able to do that.
And you had a fantastic amateur career. I mean, like I said earlier, the best amateur career of anybody in Philadelphia and maybe in the country. And I spoke to Gordon Brewer when I knew I was going to be sitting down with you. And people know Gordon Brewer as a great amateur player himself, both USGA events, several of them.
Great player.
Philadelphia, he's Mr. Philadelphia Golf. He told me that you are probably in the country's history of amateur golfers, second only to Bobby Jones. That's pretty elite company, Jay.
That's very nice of Gordon. We've come across one another a number of times, and every time I played him, I felt extreme pressure. Not only is he a hell of a gentleman, but a wonderful friend. And I can recall the mid-amateur finals in Palm Springs in, I think, '87, and I was really, really nervous. I was supposed to, with my long game, beat him, and his short game was going to beat me. Long story short, my short game appeared, and I nipped him by just a few.
Before we get into your extensive and very successful amateur career, the number 13, for whatever reason, plays a prominent role in your life to the point of almost like crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy.
Knock off a couple of things. Why 13 is all of a sudden your number?
Well, I was born on the 13th, of November, had size 13 shoe. First hole in one on the 13th hole of 13th month, Media Heights in Lancaster. When I won the amateur at Brookline, I became the 13th player to win both the U.S. and British amateur championships. The event there at that year was the 13th USGA event they had. Wilmette happened to win the Open there in 13. Any more?
I was going to say, I don't know if there's room for any more.
Hole in one at Lanark on a par 4 in a tournament. You want to guess what kind of hole it was? Number 13.
Number one, numbers-wise, I would have to say it was number 13.
Correct.
That's
And
unbelievable.
there's some others.
And there's probably a few more waiting to happen, do you think?
I hope so. You know, it's interesting. I've often tried to push the superstition. Doesn't work.
No.
It's got to happen naturally.
Okay. But you're not one of these guys that worries about Friday the 13th when
Not
it
at all.
shows
It's
up
my
on the
favorite day.
calendar.
I can't wait.
It's like another birthday.
Absolutely. Just had one.
Well, as our conversation with Jay continues, he talked about his career as an amateur. You know, as I mentioned earlier, he played on 9 different Walker Cup teams, 8 of which won. 3 times he was a playing captain, and all those teams also won, including one year in the mid-'80s at Pine Valley, where he gave a bit of advice to his opponent, Colin Montgomery.
Now let's talk about a few other numbers. Things like the Philly Amateur. You won that twice. The U.S. Amateur, you won in 82 and 83. And by the way, one of only 2 golfers in the history of that competition to win back-to-back years in the last 50 years. The other one was a fellow by the name of Tiger Woods. That gives you some elite company there as well. Tell us about that amateur career and when it kind of took off for you.
Well, in winning the amateur, should have won it in '77 at Aronimink, and I got all the way to the semifinals. I outplayed my opponent, John Fote, who won. I saw what match play can do to you, and John's a great guy, and we're friends to this day. But it was very upsetting to me the fact that I had a chance to do it, my hometown, my home course. So when '82 came around, and I got to the finals, I was so nervous you can't believe it. Again, shanked my second shot on the first hole.
Where was that tournament?
That was
being
at
played?
Brookline. That was special. Drove out of there with my wife, and I said, you know what? We can do this again. So I started planning right from that point to do it a second time. The chances of that occurring were slim and none. And just the fact that I thought I could do it was important. So
Where was the 83 tournament held?
'83 was in Chicago at North Shore, a wonderful golf course. You had to drive it straight, a lot of dog legs, and unbelievable stories how I was able to win some matches, beat Chris Perry in the final, Gaylord's son or relative.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah.
How about that?
Yeah.
And I remember watching you in '89. The amateur was played at Marion. You went up against another Philadelphian, Dave Brookerson, in the quarterfinals. Dave played out of Huntington Valley, Pine Valley, so you knew him
Very
well.
well. Yep.
Played a lot of golf with him, I'm
Great guy.
sure.
Great
Not
guy.
under the same conditions. And you beat Brookie in that quarterfinal.
Close match.
It was.
He was tough, always tough.
Yeah. And, you know, that was 1989. Now, that's 6 years after your previous last win in the amateur. Then you went up against a guy by the name of Donnie Green, was it?
Danny Green.
Danny Green.
Danny Green.
Southern guy who beat you in the semifinals at Marion the next day.
The 19th hole.
At 19 it went. Wow. Tell us about
Oh boy.
what happened on that 19th
Well,
hole.
I won 17 and 18 to get even, and looked like I had the momentum. Hit it right down the first fairway, perfect shot, and ended up in a sand-filled divot that had a footprint, a heel mark in it, and never seen anything quite like it. It was unfortunate. Couldn't really hit it onto the green or anywhere near it, so I lost.
Yeah, and
Those
Danny
things-
Green lost the next day, a
Right.
36-hole match, to a young fellow that was virtually unheard of before that, by the name of Chris Patton. He was a big guy, and Chris went on to play professionally, but didn't have a really great professional career. Most of it was overseas, but that's a nice memory from Marion for you back in 1989.
I'll say I love Marion.
Yeah. Another place where you stood out, from 1977 to 1993, you played on 9 U.S. Walker Cup teams. And for those who don't know, the Walker Cup is basically the amateur golf's version of the Ryder Cup, a U.S. team going up against a team from Ireland and Great Britain at the time. You were the winner of those 9 different Walker Cup teams 8 times. 8 times you were on the winning team, 3 of which you were the captain. So you were a playing captain and won 3 times out of your 8 appearances. What an experience.
Yeah, playing captain is one of the highest honors. Hasn't been done since, and was only done once before, and I don't believe that captain played. So a real treat and an honor, and I can't.
Do you remember some of your teammates from those various teams from 77 and 93?
Yeah, I mean, you're talking Mickelson, Verplank, Sutton, on down the line, Andrade, and it's nice when you're a captain, you get to pick your partner. So I remember playing with Hal Sutton a couple of times, and at Cyprus, and at alternate shot, we lost the 16th hole, the par 3, to a birdie each time. The 16th hole at Cyprus.
It's about a 230, 40-yard carry, right?
Yeah, exactly. To a birdie. Unbelievable. So
there was one year at Pine Valley, which is another one of your home courses. The Great Britain team and Ireland team had a young fellow by the name of Colin Montgomery as part of their team, pretty good player. You obviously were a little senior to
correct.
Colin that year. I think it was 85. And he, in his team room the night before one of the singles matches, got up and said he wanted to play the old guy, and that was Jay Sigel.
Yeah.
What happened in the match?
Well, I still to this day don't know how he arrived playing me, because it was almost a blind situation. But I'm glad it happened. We've had a lot of laughs since. So he had told his teammates he wanted to get on the old guy, and so out we go. And I had my favorite caddy from Pine Valley, Elmer, who was one of the best I've ever seen, and I had probably the best round of golf I've ever had. The pins at Pine Valley were tucked, the greens were slick, all my friends were there, and I shot 6 under through 14 holes, beat him 6 and 4. Great fun, great thrill, and he and I still talk about it to this day.
Yeah, and to this day, he reminds you the advice you gave him after that match when he came to you and said, should he remain as an amateur or turn professional? And you told him,
remain as an amateur, as I didn't figure, he had a caddy type swing. He was a little soft, and I said, stay amateur, and because amateur golf back then was suffering a little bit. So I've seen him a number of times, maybe a dozen, and he said, boy, what a great judge of talent you are. So,
and he's in the World Golf Hall of Fame.
Yes.
I hope he invited you to that ceremony.
No, he didn't.
For giving him that great piece of advice.
He didn't.
He did. Oh, maybe next time.
As my conversation with Jay continued, we talked about his 11 appearances at Augusta for the Masters tournament. And we also talked about his decision at the age of 50 to turn professional and try the senior tour, and the advice he got, all very positive, from the great Jack Nicklaus.
You also, because you did so well in some of those events, Jay, got to play at the Masters at Augusta. How many times?
11 years in a row.
11 straight years. How many cuts did you make?
I made 6, low amateur 3 times.
Low amateur 3 times, which means you got a little piece of, shall we say,
Gold,
trophy?
sterling, yeah, very nice.
Very nice. And you made an eagle at least once?
Several eagles.
Several eagles.
And they give you a crystal. It holds 13 and 15 over the water. It's kind of exciting. You know, I'm hitting a 5-wood in there. Today they're hitting, 4 and 5 irons. But great fun, exciting. You know, you either hit your ball in the water or on the green and maybe get some crystal.
But 11 Masters, wow, that's some record. Where does that stack up against winning, the U.S. Amateur a couple times and the Walker Cup performances, 8 wins? Where does the Masters 3-time low am fit in there?
Well, that's a great question. It's certainly on the list. It won't top the amateur, particularly after I had my chance in '77, winning the amateur over 5,000 players.
Competitors.
Start. Making the Walker Cup team got us to Augusta, or the world team, the Eisenhower team got us to Augusta. So once you got there, you certainly had a chance. Getting there was a tough spot, a tough deal. But anyway, that's how it happens.
Right. So you come to that point in your life where you're turning 50. You have to make a decision. Am I going to retain and go on as an amateur, or do I want to go out there and a new adventure? At the time, it was called the Senior Tour. What figured into your decision to do that?
Harry, I never saw myself as a golf professional. I had my chances when I was a younger player, and I had the injury. So I was sort of a spokesman for amateur golf back then, and people were coming up to me as I was approaching 50, and they were saying, "Well, you're going to kill him on the Senior Tour, kill him." I said, so it just kept up for so long. My focus back then was to make my Walker Cup team that year, which was being played in September, and you had to get your application in for the tour in October. So I didn't have any time. I really wasn't thinking about it. Long story short, my wife and I sat down, wrote out a number of questions we needed the answers to, spoke to Palmer, spoke to Jack Nicklaus, Trevino, ABC, USGA. Everybody thought it was a great idea, and Nicklaus was the most interesting. He said, this will give you, he said, you're going to do fine. He says, I can't describe what fine is, but it'll give you additional income, and furthermore, you can keep your insurance business. I said, how can I keep my insurance business? He said, you have good people. And sure enough, he was right. A light bulb went off in my head, and that was, we talk about it even to this day. I still thank him for helping me get through that decision.
Yeah, if somebody like Jack Nicklaus says, you got to do it, and gives you the green light, that's pretty solid.
Yeah.
And you went on to win 10 times.
Right.
On the seniors. Your last year was what?
Well, 2014.
And injuries, again, cropped up.
Yeah, 3 shoulder surgeries, 2 knee surgeries, thumbs. Not fun, but
yeah,
nothing.
But you had a great short career as a pro. Yeah. 10 victories, Jay.
10 victories, yeah.
Nothing to sneeze
at.
at.
10-year period. I almost won when I was 60. My last victory was when I was 59, which is kind of unusual.
What sticks out most about it? And you had to go through Q school to start. People just think you just walked out there, and that wasn't the case. You had to play your way onto the tour.
Right.
I know you won your first event. You were Rookie of the Year your first year.
Right.
With 1 victory. But of all the 10, is any particular one stand out?
I'd say the first one. My 4th event in Ojai, California. The weather was crummy, rainy, cool. I was 10 shots behind. Happened to notice the scoreboard on the 14th hole, I was like within 3 or 4. Now, the deal on the senior tour was to have enough money at the end of the year to be exempt. So I had to make a decision right then and there. Do I want just sort of take it easy and roll it up to the finish, or do I try to give it a go? I tried to give it a go, tried to birdie all the rest of the holes, and ended up shooting 62 that day.
Wow.
Got in a playoff against Jim Colbert, and after 4 birdies on the playoff holes, I prevailed. And the interesting thing is, Jim and I have become very, very close friends over that, and we've had a lot of laughs.
Well, I hope you enjoyed my little conversation with Jay Sigel. He was quite a guy. Yes, as an amateur, a champion. Also, as a senior player on the senior tour, a champion. And what he did in terms of cancer research at the University of Pennsylvania, well, very few people could have pulled that off. But Jay Sigel was a champion on and off the course. He was a dear friend to many of us, and he's going to be greatly missed.